Hello, if you're just coming aboard, what a coincidence. Me too. I'm Wes Platt, and I'm the new executive editor at School Bus Fleet. Thanks for joining me for the inaugural episode of The Route. I'm excited to be here, and I'm honored that you're taking the ride with me. The first few weeks I've been here have been chock full of news that I want to talk about, from the bus driver shortage to some heroic kids. But before we get started on today's route, be sure to follow and connect with us on social media, and please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode of The Route. All right, let's get rolling. Our first stop is Massachusetts, where Governor Charlie Baker called out the National Guard to help with the school bus staffing problem. It's bad all over, really, right? All over the country. National surveys showed that 51% of districts that responded described their school bus driver shortage situation as severe or desperate even. This has resulted in multiple routes for drivers. It's resulted in terrible delays. It's resulted in some districts just doing away with in-person schooling and going back to pandemic-style online virtual school because they can't get enough buses on the road to get the kids there on time. So some of this is due to the pandemic and concerns about vaccinations or infections. Even if you are vaccinated, or if you can't get vaccinated because of medical conditions, you might get the virus from somebody on the bus. Okay, so there's one reason. Another reason that this is happening is that bus drivers that were working for school districts and other companies found jobs that paid better, had better benefits. So school districts and student transportation companies are struggling to come up with ways to keep and retain the drivers that they have on staff and to bring in new people. And then there's also people complaining about the time and effort required to get a commercial driver's license or a CDL. And that takes us to our next stop in New York, where Congressman Joe Morelle sent a letter to Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg suggesting that we waive the requirement for a CDL for school bus drivers. This has not been super popular with bus drivers, who obviously go to the trouble of getting a commercial driver's license and all that's entailed with that, and the expense that can be entailed with that. And long term, I don't think Morelle's intention here is to do away with the CDL requirement entirely. It seems like a short-term measure to get people in the seats. But what they're looking for long term is a slimmed down version of the CDL. Right now, the CDL, it includes school bus related things, but it also has a lot of stuff to do with long haul trucking, which school bus drivers aren't necessarily having to do. This is not a new idea. This is something I know that was being pushed last year, but it kind of got lost in the shuffle between the Trump administration and the Biden administration when the new president took over. So they haven't gotten to that. Hopefully, they're going to get back to that. I know there are some other states that are looking at ways to try to lighten that load a little bit. But it seems like it got lost in the shuffle. Not sure when they're going to get back to that. Until then, we're all dealing with the shortage the best way we know how. While we're in New York, let's stop by the headquarters of the National Association of State Directors of Pupil Transportation Services. I'd been hoping to meet some industry folks at the NASDPTS conference in November, but the plague, COVID-19, continues to be problematic. Out of an abundance of caution, the organization's leaders scrapped plans for an in-person event. I've got unvaccinated kids. I've got a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, and there's no vaccine for them yet. I'm vaccinated. I'm ready to get the booster when it's time, but I understand the nervousness about getting back into in-person things right away this quickly, especially with people still potentially being exposed to unvaccinated people. So I understand their dilemma, and I appreciate their final decision, but I'm holding out hope for some kind of a virtual event. I know they did that last year. I hope they do it again. So our final stop takes us to Missouri for some good news. Here's where a couple of quick-thinking students saved the day when their driver lost consciousness. I mean, how do you train for that, right? But the bus went off the road, through a fence, into a field. Tandon Baker, who's 12, he rushed to the front, got his foot on the brake, stopped the bus. His friend Emily Williams, who's 15, she called 911 to get an ambulance out there, and she helped calm down the other younger kids on the bus to keep them from freaking out too much. Their superintendent in St. James R1 School District, Tim Webster, he calls these kids the definition of a hero, and I couldn't agree more. They did a great job under really scary circumstances. So very happy for them, and glad nobody else got hurt. Well, it's time to park the bus for now, but I want to hear from everyone who's coming along for the ride. Share your thoughts about this episode and others in the comments, and absolutely subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of The Route. You can reach out to me via email to wes.platt@bobbit.com, and be sure to tweet us at schoolbusfleet. Drive safely, and see you next time on The Route.